Hello, so just like Commando, I want to talk about min-maxing the firebug and just everything about the class in general. If all you care is the meta build and you're not here for the whole breakdown, this, 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 that, this, some of these, that one, this, obviously this, of course you take this, why wouldn't you grab this, and yeah. Okay, and then as far as economy goes, you just use the Brimstone for the first two waves. Then when wave 3, you just buy the Vulcan. So the Brimstone is the best starting weapon in the game. It's not even remotely close. This could unironically and really should be a blue tier weapon. Anyway, white phosphorus, magnesium accelerator, laser sight, red dot, drum mag, heavy frame. This is how you get the most out of your operational budget. Every bonus perk, it should be 3% team damage or 1% damage. 3% for being near one teammate and 1% per teammate. That'll add up to about 19% extra damage. The Brimstone fully modded reaches 180 a shot, plus all of your burn and heat increases from the perk. This weapon ends up hitting for about like 400 on headshot. Actually, a little more than that. It'll hit for about 410, 420-ish on headshot. And then you get all the heat dot bonuses and panic that it causes. Yeah, I don't know why, but this is a starter weapon. To put this into perspective, like, Ninja's bow fully modded hits for the same primary damage as the Brimstone can headshot for. And this is a white free starter weapon. And 2 waves of only using your white weapon is enough to get you your purple weapon on every class. And then, of course, for the Vulcan, you want to go like this. Though you can change out, like, the ammo efficiency tank for the damage tank. It really won't make that much of a difference, especially depending on skill choice. Okay, so that's your brain dead easy. Oh, side note. You can use the kunai if you'd like. All melee master kunai and Z time damage increase. But we'll talk about that in a second when we get there. Okay, now for the actual class breakdown. This class has a lot of really good options that you could take instead of the ones that I'm taking. This isn't like Commando, where there's always just one correct choice, and then there's a couple choices that look good, but when you really start like breaking them down and getting into the nitty-gritty of min-maxing, they aren't really that good. And then 80% of them are just unusable garbage. This class, it's outward. There's a lot of good choices and just abysmal dog shit right next to it. So let's give you the perfect example of one of the worst balanced choices I have ever seen in a video game. 25% less damage from burning enemies. Everything you do burns them. Every one of your weapons burns them. You burn them just for walking around. Your grenade burns them. Basically, if you are fighting it, it's burning. 25% less damage is the equivalent of, like, it's like 95% of the effect of purple armor. Purple armor reduces all damage by 30%. This reduces damage by 25%. So this just means you basically rock 55% constant damage reduction. Okay. And what Pertel is competing with this? 150 heat damage against a single melee attack with a 10-second cooldown. Brother, what? You could make this skill have no cooldown and deal 500 damage, and it would still not be as good as the other one. You could make this skill have no cooldown, hit in an AoE around you, and deal 1,000 damage, and then maybe I would take it. And the reason why that's still only a maybe is because 25% damage reduction is really nice, and it can actually set you up to survive an attack from a boss in 6-player Hell on Earth. This, like, I don't want to get hit at all if I can help it. So unless this literally just kills every single thing around me, I would never be interested in this. Yeah, no, it would need to do 1,000 damage in about like a 7 to 10 meter AoE with like a 2-second cooldown maximum for me to ever consider taking this. So, heat exposure. Heat weapons apply 120% increased burn, and enemies burn for like 4 times as long. It's okay. It's not that good. The problem is the burn isn't where most of your damage comes from in firebug in this game. You aren't actually a dot class, you're a borderline sharpshooter. Because the Vulcan is all about direct damage, while it still does burn and leave ground fire, so you can benefit from all those synergies and shit. 90% of the damage is up front in the initial shot. So, this skill could easily become really good if the meta shifted, though. Deal 20% increased direct weapon damage of heat weapons. So the Brimstone primarily does its damage via direct heat damage. The shotgun primarily does its damage via direct heat damage. And like 90% of the Vulcan's damage is direct heat damage. The only weapons that do not care about direct heat damage is the G33 and the Flamethrower. The G33 is good, but it's not really that good for fire. It's good for Enfeeble with Enfeeble grenades. And the Vulcan is the best weapon in the game. So this is a pretty no-brainer pick. This could be good, and you can build around ground fire entirely with Scorched Earth. Like, you can get the Panic Seal. The problem that this runs into is it's just objectively not as good as direct damage. Because even if you are, even if you get the ground fire, like, increased panic thing that's somewhere on this tree. So the biggest problem with this skill is right there. It's in the fucking video. So do you see how they're just standing there letting it burn them? And do you see how even with this perk, it still takes about a solid, let's count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. So this is 250% increase. That's like a 4.5 whatever, 2.5 times increase in damage. So with a 2.5 times increase in damage, it still takes 5 seconds just to kill a Gorefast, which is considered a medium Zed. So you're looking at 5 seconds to kill a medium Zed even with this. So that means without this, ground fire takes 15 seconds to kill a medium Zed. That is fucking terrible. That is so little. Do you know what else you could do? You could just take focus fire, and that very weapon, the Brimstone that's shooting at their feet, will one-shot Gorefast to the head. So the biggest problem here is that, 1, ground fire needs to do like twice as much base damage for this perk to actually matter. And 2, the enemies will not just stand in the fire. Because the hardest enemies to afflict with crowd control are the enemies that need to stand in the fire the longest. So there's like a catch-22. The fire doesn't do enough damage. The fire doesn't do enough CC to make enemies stand in it. The bigger enemies, I mean. So the enemies that need to stand in it the longest are actually the ones that stand in it the least because they're the most likely to just move out of it. This entire playstyle of ground fire, firebug, I don't want to say it's not viable, but it's basically not viable. Like, I've never seen anyone do it, and maybe I've seen some random retard in, like, public games do it, but there's a reason why I always do 3 times as much damage as people, because they're messing around, they're trying to have fun like this, and this is a game where if you want to win, it's no fun allowed. Okay, this is one of the better balanced perk choices. So max ammo capacity is increased by 60% is actually really good. Just one small problem. Have you ever ran out of Vulcan ammo? I haven't. I've never ran out in solo, and there's so many ammo bags getting thrown about in multiplayer that I can never remember a time where I was short of ammo in multiplayer either. This is the kind of perk, this is a trap perk. This perk is exactly the same logic as why Commando's 30% weapon discount perk is kind of bad. It only does something if you actually make use of the bonus. So with Commando's situation, you're gonna buy your purple weapon just 1 round later, which is inconsequential because Wave 2 is just as easy as Wave 1. Those waves exist to pad your economy. And now with this perk, you aren't spending more than the ammo you have without this perk. So why even bother with it? Especially when you consider that the other perk is actually really good. Ground fire is bigger, is nice. That helps deal with that just walking out of the ground fire problem. And applying a feeble per tick is actually really insane. This makes your Vulcan basically able to replace the G33 in terms of dropping Enfeeble. you just shoot the spawn point or choke point or wherever with ground fire, and now enemies lose like half their movement speed for walking through it. That's really useful. And it allows you can look at this as like a 30% movement speed increase as well. Because taking movement speed away from the enemies is the same as increasing your movement speed. Kiting is the best way to survive in this game, so just shooting one puddle at the ground that slows enemies means you don't ever have to worry about them catching up to you. So this perk is ludicrous. This perk is genuinely overpowered. This perk is very rare to even see use. This is another relatively well-balanced option, at least it would be if this perk didn't exist. So, ground fire effects caused by weapons heal you for 5 health per second. This is nice, and this is exactly what I was saying with Commando. The acid heal is bad because you have to run into the acid, which can only spawn on top of enemies where you're most likely to take damage. This you can drop at your feet. Dropping it at your feet also means enemies walk into it, which causes them to get enfeebled and slowed. So if you did take this, I would totally understand that. I wouldn't criticize you for it. Though this is just kind of better. For one, you can see in the video what counts as nearby enemies. I mean, look at that. That's like 15 meters away. You know, that's like not... To put this into perspective, that's about 15 meters away. And I forget what my ping button is, because pinging in this game is a fucking joke. Where is it? It's 4. Okay, so... Yeah, this is like what they consider to be close range. From here to like that door. You know, let me like ping the boxes. Yeah, from here to like those boxes. That's what they consider to be close range. Hell, even if it's just 10 meters like here, that's still not that close. And then you consider that the Vulcan is an AoE weapon, and you can just shoot it at your feet. Let me display this. So, part of what makes Firebug so strong is the fact that she can restore armor and health and do both consistently. So if I just shoot the ground real quick, like... Oh yeah, these things aren't really good for showing this. Fuck. This thing is an AoE weapon. So you could just kind of like shoot it like this as you're walking, and you will kill things. Let's go back here. And you can just kill stuff as you're walking or sliding around, and this will give you armor. So getting 5 kills is really fucking easy. The other thing is, it's just killing nearby enemies. It's not killing them with a weapon. So your grenade, your ground fire, your ultimate, all of that shit that requires you to be in close range anyways, this benefits from. And the other reason why you take this perk is not only is armor generation like arguably the strongest thing in the game, you have to abuse this perk. This perk right here, killing nearby enemies, grants Gadget energy. This is like what makes Firebug as strong as she is. That and the fact that her perk has like the shortest Gadget energy cooldown in the entire game. So this is unlimited armor generation, and all it takes is like a couple feet shots with the Vulcan or whatever, or like throwing a grenade down and just standing relatively close to it. And the thing is, you don't care about being closer to enemies, again, because of the Enfeeble. This is also why this perk kind of sucks. The Enfeeble means they attack slower and they move slower, which means it takes them twice as long to get to you, and you have twice as much time to get out of the way of the attack. So even if you are going to be a little closer than you would otherwise comfortably be, the Enfeeble getting dropped on the ground from shooting at your feet like this doesn't actually, like, it prevents being close from being a problem. Okay, this is the worst row of perks in the entire game, arguably. Weapon reload speed is increased by 25%. This is okay, but you're not spending that long reloading as Firebug. And reloading weapons damage nearby enemies, applying panic and heat. This is funny with the shurikens, because with ninjas throwing weapons, this makes it so every single throw counts as a reload, and every single throw procs this. It's only good for clearing trash, which is not valuable in the slightest, but it is really funny. This is the only perk that I could see justify taking over Explosive Reaction. Now, in case you don't know, because you live under, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, this game is very well designed and very well made. So the kunai does 794 damage on its melee hits, and bashing counts as a melee hit. So if you create a macro where you bash, and then you immediately, because this is a normal bash, this is the rate at which you normally bash. But if you bash and then immediately hit the inspect animation, you will cancel the bash. Which means you can set up a macro to perfectly bash cancel the second that the bash goes out and like the hitbox the hitbox hits the tip of the weapon. This means you could have maximum attack speed 100% of the time and gain 1,000 flat damage, which is how you become the best melee class in the game. I'm not very fond of that because, one, I think it's an exploit that's probably going to get changed in some capacity, and two, I would just rather not be in melee distance of enemies. I'd rather stay like 5 meters away and just shoot them to death. So that kind of leaves explosive reaction as the only, albeit not good. And this isn't a good option, though be it. But you can at least gain this, so this is ground fire for, this stuff. Which, one thing that is nice about this is you kill the enemy, they drop the puddle, and they kill all the other trash mobs. It's garbage, because 250 damage is enough to kill hell on earth trash, so this perk is, like, actually relevant, unlike the one shitty commando one that's, like, one scar headshot, or not even one scar body shot worth of damage. 250 is actually enough to kill trash, and it drops a heat puddle, which will burn them, which makes them take less damage and starts the whole Enfeeble looping bullshit. So it at least synergizes with your other perks really nicely and doesn't require you to take kunai, which is something I'm just not fond of in general. But if you took this wanting to take kunai to drop Skrakes in under a second, that would be understandable. Enemies hit by the Molotov explosion panic for 60 seconds longer. This would be great if it was just enemies panic for longer, like, while standing in ground fire. The fact that they have to be hit by the Molotov's explosion kills this perk completely. I shouldn't say kill it. It's not bad. It's just not that good. I'd rather have the explosion radius so that I get more kills per Molotov. But if you took this, I would understand that. This one is just kind of bad. Hitting enemies directly with Molotov applies panic and deals 350 heat damage. Well, the idea here is that you throw this at a big enemy and it panics them, which stuns them for like 2 seconds. The heat damage is completely inconsequential. Skrakes have like 5,000 health, so this is like deals 4% of a Skrakes health pool and stuns it for like 2 seconds. No thanks, bro. A low damage dock grenade like this is best served with a large radius and large uptime, just so it clears trash as soon as it spawns in. That's also how you make the most money off your grenades, in case you didn't know. Grenades are by far and away best used to clear trash in this game, because that's how they get the most return per grenade throw on your, like, investment. So making them better at that is just making them better at the thing that they're already good at. Whereas something like this makes it encourages you to use the grenade in a way that it fucking sucks at. You don't have an option there. So if you were going to take this, then you would also take out with a bang. And I will say this does make it somewhat useful, because now it's taking, the initial impact is taking like 12% of a Skrake's health away. But the problem is this is firebug. You just use the Vulcan or do this with kunai, and that scary flesh pound literally dies in like a second or a second and a half. So, you're just kind of like, huh. The issue is this exact thing of good single target damage is better achieved with other tools. So you might as well go for the ground fire extension. Just throw it at a choke point. It'll kill every trash Zed for you. Generate you a ton of money. Molotov ground fire applies 125 Enfeeble per second. This is the big thing. So you throw this at a choke point or a spawn point, it kills all of the trash for you, and now all of the big Zeds are moving like 30% slower, 50% slower, and attacking 50% slower. which also synergizes with this. These two perks means literally everything you do is causing everything to be enfeebled all the time, and enfeeble is the single strongest status in the game. I guess you could argue confusion is better, but there are some drawbacks to that. Whereas with Enfeeble, your base run speed is like almost twice as fast as the Zeds, so they literally cannot catch up to you to damage you ever. So the more you're constantly applying Enfeeble to everything, the easier the game gets. Seriously, Enfeeble G33 absolutely trivializes this game. It makes it genuinely not fun to play. It's so easy. Molotov's secondary projectiles explode when they land, dealing 300 heat damage. So again, look at this video. Look at the video showing off the skill. It literally can't kill a bloat. So the initial explosion, plus the secondary explosion with 300 damage, and the full effect of ground fire cannot kill a bloat. We are talking damage values under 100 here. And then look, the gore fast isn't killed by the initial explosion plus the secondary projectile. It still takes, let's count, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. It takes about 2.5 seconds of ground fire to kill that gore fast with that 300 damage. And look, he's getting hit by 2 of those projectiles. So he's taking 600 damage from this perk, and it still takes him 2.5 seconds. By the way, remember Scorched Earth? It makes the ground fire alone take 5 seconds to kill a gore fast. I love these little perk overview videos because they really show you just how fucking trash some of these perks are. Seriously, even with burn, even with ground fire, even with the initial hit and 2 procs of this perk, you cannot kill a bloat. Do you think that is a valuable amount of damage? No. This is okay because the only purpose of this is to give you an AoE to just kill every trash mob to make the Vulcan even more ammo efficient to kind of justify never ever needing this. So you just shoot once and it kills the entire spawn wave. This at least serves a purpose. This literally doesn't. Because do you know what would make them take more damage? Enfeebling them so they move slower through the fire so the fire gets its full duration of ticks on them. This is effectively adding the same amount of damage as this does. It's just also adding a dot that makes them slower, which has more utility. And then this is just kind of okay, I guess. If you could have Enfeeble and this, you'd really like that. But without the Enfeeble, this is just kind of okay. This actually makes the Molotov take up too much radius. If you're throwing this at a choke point or a spawn point, oh god, excuse me, like you should, then, I mean, look at this. What doorway in this game is bigger than that patch of fire? Answer, none. Even when Skrakes bust down the doors, this is still maximum choke point potential in the entire game. So this is just wasted. The only time this is ever useful is if you throw this in the open. And I don't mean like in the open at the pack of Zeds chasing you. I mean just raw dog this shit in like the middle of the street hoping they run into it. And that is quite literally the worst way you could use your grenade. Okay, now let's talk about the overpowered gadget. So Firebug has the shortest gadget cooldown in the game. It's 24 seconds, which means it also takes the least energy. So nearby enemies take 30% increased damage is not the worst thing in the world. The problem is it's not the heal. Using Wildfire reloads your weapon and increases your weapon damage by 20% for 10 seconds. That's also not the worst thing in the world because of the short cooldown, but it's not the heal, so you can't ever take it. Yeah, so 40% health. It's bugged in multiplayer and gives you 80, by the way. So getting half, and in some cases almost all of your health back instantly for pressing a button. I mean, this is basically like a free syringe every time you use this. It's almost on that level. And with the shortest cooldown in the game and one of the best cooldown skills in the game, think about this. All you need to do is use like a Bonebreaker shotgun or a G33 or just the Vulcan even. And you just run into trash mobs. Or hell, you just throw a Molotov down at a choke point and just hang by it for a second. And you get like 50% of your energy back off of like 5 kills. Which means you should be spamming this every like 12 plus seconds in multiplayer. You should be spamming this every like 7 to 12 seconds. which means you're constantly getting health back. You're constantly killing things to get armor back because you're killing them at a close range. So, you know, every use of this will give you like 6 to 12 armor, 40 health. You're using it every like 10 seconds. It's fucking ridiculous. This heal should probably just not be a thing, if I'm going to be honest with you. Ground fire caused by wildfire have 25% increased radius and deal 30% increased damage. This is okay. The problem is you just don't really care about increasing the wildfire radius, and you also don't really care about increasing its damage. It's fine. I wouldn't fault you for taking it, but 40% movement speed with no Enfeeble. Okay, let's put it this way. This is almost the difference. Okay, I need to think of a way to word this that doesn't just make sense to me. Okay, I got it. So Enfeeble lowers their movement speed by 50%. The difference between a normal mob and an enfeebled mob, this is basically adding that, but to you in the positive direction. Which also means you can enfeeble them and activate this. And by the way, bosses can be enfeebled. And that's kind of what you use this for. So you drop your ground fire to enfeeble the boss, and then you could just straight up drop this on them. That is the main reason you're taking this, is because you get iframes during your ability, and then this gives you 10 seconds of being faster if you use Enfeeble twice as fast as bosses, which means they just can't hit you. And that's really what you're exploiting with this. This is mostly for boss fights. So this perk choice is interesting. The fireballs kind of suck. 500 heat damage is just not a lot. If you shotgun them on something like right in front of you, it's kind of okay. But when you see what it's competing with, you just can't. Red carpet is really good. Ground fire lasting for 6 seconds is okay, but it's not the greatest thing in the world. However, standing in the fires gives you 20% heat damage. That's crazy. So you need to stop thinking about this skill as something you use offensively. Because of this, and how quickly it comes back thanks to this, you can just drop ground fire and have the ground fire kill nothing, and just drop it as a heal and damage increase. Because this is like 12 seconds of 20% damage. Which, by the way, this plus this means you're getting a near constant 40% damage increase to your Vulcan. Which, yeah. You know, that kind of just makes Firebug better at using the Vulcan than the Commando. I am well aware that there's a bit of discourse going on right now that people are saying the Commando's overpowered. Why would you use anything else? Yeah. Commando is actually one of the weaker classes. His damage bonuses just can't compete with stuff like this. Just stacking multiple of these. Because he really only gets one consistently. Wildfire's blast wave radius is increased by 60% is cool and is not bad, but holy shit. Giving 6 Gadget energy back just for killing an enemy, that's it. That's all you need to do. You just need to kill them. You can kill them with a door trap. You can kill them with a door trap. You can kill them with your weapon. You can kill them with a grenade. You can kill them with a dot on the ground. Anything. And I mean, look at how far away those guys in the back are that still count as nearby. The guys that are getting flamethrowered. Think about that. That fucking clot back there on the left, next to the Gorefast, that's like 15 meters away. That counts as close range. So, like, okay, dude. Literally just sort of sit by the choke point and get your skill back like every 3 seconds, you know? Alright, this. This skill is interesting. I really wish it would activate this twice, but then it would probably just be overpowered. But a second discharge isn't, like, it's not good, but it's also not bad. The problem is you don't really gain anything for this second discharge. I don't know. It's just whatever. The discharge itself isn't really what you're using this skill for. You're using this skill for all the effects you get for discharging it. So this kind of does just make it worse, in a way. Especially when you consider that picking that means you can't take this. Using Wildfire causes you to ignite for 20 seconds, lol, Lamau XD. While on fire, apply burn and panic to nearby enemies. So this is really the perk that sets the Firebug apart from everyone else. So I just want you to understand the loop here. You use her ultimate, which heals you and restores a lot of your armor and increases your damage. So you're getting extra damage, extra move speed, armor, and health for using her gadget. Then you use this, which makes everything, even the biggest Zeds like Flesh Pounds, instantly get stunned for being next to you, which then allows you to very safely and very easily farm as many kills as you want with this. Every single time, this is the gameplay loop of Firebug. Use the ability to heal and get armor and move speed. Use the move speed to run into enemies with this, which causes them to get stunned, which allows you to kill them with the Vulcan or whatever instantly, and then get the gadget back before these 20 seconds are up, which is almost impossible not to do, by the way. And then you just keep the loop. And while you're doing that, everything is getting enfeebled, so they lose out on their attacks and move speed. That is just kind of the gameplay loop of Firebug. And now for one of the worst perks in the game. Once per match, while down, you may activate Wildfire to get back up, repair 50 armor, and become invulnerable for 4 seconds. The fact this is once per match kills this. If this was once per wave, I could, in a world, see this being useful for boss waves or whatever. But the fact that it's once per match, you need to actually think about the logistics of this ability for a second. The only time you should use this is if you are the last one alive. Problem: Skrakes and shit can execute you, which means you need to use this shit like ASAP or you're gonna die. Which means if you ever go down and you're not the last one alive, you effectively wasted this. And considering just how strong this perk is, because this perk single-handedly enables the rest of your perks. Because this perk guarantees everything, even Flesh Pounds and Skrakes are stunned for you to make use of all this other shit constantly. You use this to proc all this stuff more. So it creates an endless loop. This is one of the worst perks in the game. I would honestly say, at the risk of sounding like a douchebag, if you think this perk is good, you should seriously consider that your knowledge of what makes something good in these 4-player co-op horde games is severely lacking. Because this is the ultimate trap perk. Building to go down is always bad. The revive shout in Vermintide 2 was terrible. The revive shout in Darktide was terrible. The self-revive fugitive perk in Payday 2 is regarded as like the worst perk in the entire game. This is also one of the worst perks in this entire game. The only time one of these perks has ever been sort of useful was Deep Rock Galactic's Iron Will. And that was only sort of useful because Deep Rock is full of literally garbage tier perks that spend 99% of the game not active. And even then, a lot of the best players will tell you Iron Will is very overrated and you kind of should wean yourself off using it. And the fact that you can restore it, that's the biggest thing about Iron Will and Deep Rock, because a lot of people like to make that comparison. You can restore that perk at a resupply station. I don't know if you can anymore, but you could for like the first couple years. You could bring that perk back. So you could get multiple uses of it per game. You could literally use it, run to a resupply pod during the invulnerability window, and get it back, and loop it like 7 times if you needed to. That's what made that really good. This kind of one-time use thing is just terrible because there's no way to refund this. Again, if it was once per wave, I could at least understand it. If it was, honestly, this perk should have a meter. You know what would make this perk kind of good? Considering it's a level 30 perk, these should be the 3 strongest perks for the entire class. This should honestly say, after 100 kills with heat damage, regain the ability. It should be something like that. This should be something that if you need to, you can proc it like 5+ times per game. Yeah, I think that covers just about everything with this class. Alright, see you later.